We live our lives in forward motion. From the moment we are born, the arrow of time pulls us in one direction, and our culture reinforces this instinct. We are told to set goals, to chase ambitions, to build a future. We create 5-year plans, 10-year visions. We chart a course from point A, where we are, to point B, a destination shimmering in the distance. Our minds are conditioned to think in a straight line, to solve problems by addition, by asking, what steps must I take to get there? What do I need to add to my life? More money, more knowledge, more discipline to achieve success. This forward-facing orientation is so deeply ingrained in us that we rarely question it. It feels natural, logical, productive. Yet it is precisely this linear thinking that often leads us into the most complex and intractable problems. We charge ahead, only to find ourselves lost in a labyrinth of unforeseen consequences, trapped by the very plans we so carefully constructed. But what if there were another way? A way to navigate the complexities of life not by charging forward, but first by stepping back. What if the most effective way to find the right path was to begin by considering all the wrong ones? This is the essence of a mental model so powerful, yet so counterintuitive, that it has been a secret weapon for some of history's greatest thinkers, from Roman Stoics to modern billionaires. It is the simple yet profound art of inversion, the power of thinking backwards. The most famous proponent of this idea in our time is Charlie Munger, the legendary business partner of Warren Buffett. Munger, a man whose wisdom is as vast as his fortune, once summarized his entire approach to life and business with a beautifully inverted piece of folk wisdom. I only want to know where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. Think about that statement for a moment. It's absurd on the surface, yet it contains a deep and practical truth. It's a joke, but it's not a joke. Munger is not talking about literal mortality. He is talking about failure. He is talking about ruin, stupidity, and disaster. While everyone else is asking, how can I be successful? Munger is asking, what would guarantee my failure? While others are trying to be brilliant, Munger is simply trying, with every fiber of his being, to not be an idiot. And as it turns out, consistently avoiding stupidity is a much more reliable path to success than intermittently striving for genius. This is inversion in its purest form. Instead of focusing on the desired outcome, you focus on its opposite. You don't ask, how can I achieve X? You ask, what would prevent me from achieving X? Or how could I guarantee the failure of X? By identifying and then systematically avoiding the things that cause failure, you naturally drift closer to success. You clear the path of obstacles rather than trying to build a perfect bridge over them. This mental tool is not new. It has ancient roots in the philosophy of Stoicism. The Stoics, like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Each morning, they would take time to imagine all the things that could go wrong in their day. They would visualize losing their wealth, their reputation being tarnished, their loved ones being taken from them, even their own death. To a modern mind, this sounds morbid, like a recipe for anxiety and depression. But for the Stoics, it was a tool for resilience and tranquility. By contemplating the worst-case scenarios in advance, they achieved two things. First, they emotionally inoculated themselves. If something bad did happen, it would not be a shock. They had already visited that dark place in their minds and were prepared for it. Second, and more importantly for our discussion, it allowed them to identify the potential points of failure in their day and in their character. By thinking about what could lead to a disastrous day, losing their temper, acting on impulse, succumbing to greed, they could actively decide to avoid those behaviors. They inverted the problem. Instead of asking, "How can I have a good day?" they asked, "What would ruin my day, and how can I prevent it?" The power of this approach lies in its ability to bypass our natural cognitive biases. Human beings are, by nature, over-optimistic. We suffer from what psychologists call the planning fallacy, the tendency to underestimate the time, costs, and risks of future actions. We map out our projects, our careers, our financial plans with a rosy filter, imagining a smooth, linear path to our goal. Inversion shatters this filter. It forces us to confront the messy, unpredictable reality of the world. It compels us to see the downside, the risks, the potential for error that our optimistic brains would prefer to ignore. This model can be applied to every significant domain of life, and it is perhaps most powerful in the areas most plagued by complexity and uncertainty, like personal finance. The common question in finance is, how can I get rich? This question sends people down a rabbit hole of chasing hot stocks, speculating on cryptocurrencies, and looking for that one brilliant investment that will make them a fortune. It's a quest for genius, and it often leads to catastrophic losses because genius is rare and difficult to replicate. Now let's invert the question. How can I avoid being poor? Or more precisely, what are the surefire ways to end up in financial ruin? The answers are immediately obvious and universally applicable. Accumulating high-interest credit card debt, living beyond your means, failing to save for the future, making concentrated speculative bets you don't understand, wiping out your capital in a market crash because you were over-leveraged, panicking and selling at the bottom.
If your primary financial goal becomes the avoidance of these stupidities, your behavior changes radically. You prioritize paying off debt. You create a budget and live within it. You automate your savings. You build a diversified long-term portfolio. You don't try to time the market. You focus not on maximizing upside, but on minimizing the chance of permanent loss. The writer Morgan Housel brilliantly captures this idea when he says that the single most important factor in long-term investing is survival. It's not about the highest returns. It's about staying in the game long enough for compounding to work its magic. This is a purely inverted strategy. It's not about finding the winning lottery ticket. It's about never buying one. And over a lifetime, this avoiding ruin strategy is far more likely to lead to wealth than the get-rich-quick strategy. The same logic applies to a career or building a business. The forward-thinking question is, how do I build a massively successful company? This leads to brainstorming sessions about disruptive ideas, revolutionary products, and viral marketing campaigns. These are important, but they are also subject to immense luck and uncertainty. The inverted question is, what would guarantee our business fails? The list is clear and devastating. Treating customers poorly, running out of cash, having no product market fit, a toxic company culture that drives away talented people, ignoring the competition, failing to adapt. A leadership team that spends one day a month exclusively discussing this inverted question, identifying the pathways to failure, and building systems to prevent them, is building an organization on a foundation of solid rock. They create what's called a pre-mortem. Before a big project launches, the team imagines that it has already launched and has failed spectacularly. They then spend an hour writing down every possible reason for this failure. This exercise isn't pessimistic, it's strategically brilliant. It surfaces risks and assumptions that no one had considered, allowing the team to address them before they become reality. They are, in Munger's words, figuring out where they might die so they can make sure they never go there. Even in something as personal as health and well-being, inversion provides stunning clarity. We are bombarded with complex, often contradictory advice on how to be healthy. How do I optimize my health is a question that leads to an overwhelming world of biohacking, exotic superfoods, and punishing workout regimens. Let's invert it. What would guarantee a life of poor health? The answers are simple and have remained unchanged for centuries. A sedentary lifestyle, a diet dominated by processed foods and sugar, chronic sleep deprivation, unmanaged stress, smoking and excessive alcohol consumption. If you simply dedicate your energy to avoiding these 5 things, you will be healthier than 90% of the population. You don't need a PhD in nutrition or a personal trainer to the stars. You just need to systematically eliminate the poisons. The path to health is not primarily about adding complexity. It's about subtracting stupidity. It's about not doing the things that are obviously, undeniably bad for you. This is an achievable, clear, and incredibly effective strategy. This reveals a fundamental truth about many complex systems, including human life. There are often more ways to fail than to succeed. The path to success can be narrow and specific, while the paths to failure are broad and plentiful. Therefore, it is often more efficient to identify and block the paths to failure than it is to try and pinpoint the single path to success. By avoiding the obvious pitfalls, you are then left in the much smaller territory where success becomes possible. You raise your floor, and in doing so, you give yourself a much better platform from which to reach for the ceiling. There is, however, a crucial distinction to be made. Inversion is not pessimism. A pessimist sees a negative outcome and resigns themselves to it. The person using inversion sees a negative outcome and uses it as a map to navigate away from it. It is not about wallowing in negativity. It is about using the specter of negativity as a tool for clear, rational, and strategic action. It is a form of constructive, practical paranoia. You prepare for the worst not because you expect it to happen, but so that you can ensure it never does. There is also a second, more subtle form of inversion that is equally powerful. The first form, which we have been discussing, is about identifying and avoiding negative outcomes. The second form is about assuming a positive outcome has already occurred and working backwards from there to discover the necessary steps. This is a favorite technique of elite planners and engineers. Let's say your goal is to have a company that generates $10 million in annual revenue 5 years from now. Instead of starting from today and trying to plot a forward path, you start in the future. Assume it's 5 years from now and you have succeeded. Now work backwards. To have $10 million in revenue in year 5, what must have been true in year 4? Perhaps you needed a fully scaled sales team and a national distribution network. And for that to be true in year 3, what must have been true in year 1? You likely needed a proven product, a strong brand, and a repeatable customer acquisition process. And for that to be true in year 1, you needed to have found product-market fit with an initial group of customers. By working backwards from the goal, the causal chain of necessary steps becomes much clearer. It helps distinguish between what is merely helpful and what is absolutely critical. This method forces you to confront the logical prerequisites for your success. It's like solving a maze by starting at the exit and tracing the path back to the entrance. It is often a much more direct and insightful approach than starting at the entrance and bumping into dead ends. So we have 2 forms of this powerful tool. The first is Munger's approach, Figure out what you want to avoid and steer clear of it. This is a strategy for resilience, for avoiding ruin, for playing the long game. It is about subtraction. The second is the engineer's approach. Assume you have already succeeded and work backwards to identify the critical path. This is a strategy for creation, for building, for achieving ambitious goals. It is about deconstruction. Both methods share a common, powerful thread. They force a shift in perspective. They break us out of our default, linear, forward-looking mode of thinking, which is often clouded by emotion, bias, and wishful thinking. Inversion is a cold, rational lens. It strips a problem down to its essential components. In a world that constantly screams for more hustle, more innovation, more growth at all costs, inversion is the quiet voice of wisdom that whispers, "First, do no harm." In an age obsessed with finding the secrets to success, inversion reminds us that the secrets of failure are often more instructive. Brilliance is complex, but stupidity is often simple. Success is a moving target, but ruin has patterns we can learn to recognize and avoid. This is not a call to abandon ambition or to stop setting goals. It is a call to pursue those ambitions with a more powerful and robust toolkit. It is about understanding that the architect who wants to build a strong tower must spend as much time thinking about the forces that could bring it down, wind, erosion, gravity, as they do about the design that will make it beautiful. The strength of the structure lies not just in its soaring aspirations, but in its deep-seated resistance to failure. So the next time you face a complex problem, a major decision, or a lofty goal, pause. Resist the urge to immediately charge forward. Take a moment to invert. Ask yourself, what is the stupidest thing I could do here? What would guarantee failure? What are the forces that could destroy this project, this investment, this relationship? Make a list of those things, a not-to-do list. This list is often more valuable than any to-do list you will ever create. And then ask the second inverted question. If I had already succeeded, what must have been true? Work backwards from the victory line. See the path not as a series of steps to be taken, but as a series of conditions that must have been met.
By thinking backwards, you will begin to see the world with new eyes. You will see the hidden traps, the unseen obstacles, the faulty assumptions that derail others. You will navigate the labyrinth of life not with blind speed, but with the careful, considered wisdom of one who has already studied the map of failure. You will find that the surest path to your desired destination is often found by first understanding all the ways you could get lost. The path to an extraordinary life is often found not in the grand additions, but in the deliberate, wise subtractions. And the key to building an unbreakable future often lies in first contemplating its potential ruin.